So Nicola and her mother, Margaret, who died in a suspected suicide pact after they were being targeted in an attack. This again seems, I would have anyway, I'm died in a big impact after being targeted in a tortuous contract by a woman who used a string of fake personas, a bogus stem cell trial, and a fictional government cover-up to extort money from the pair. Now you talk about, you know, truth is stranger than fiction. This is another one. I mean, I think, God, if somebody put these in a play or a film, you'd think it just couldn't possibly be true. So Margaret, 52, so this is the mother, and Nicola, only 23. And looking at this, is this her child? There's a little baby, so you can just see the side of her baby's head there. So it's even more tragic if she left behind children. They died after they were found badly injured in a Premier Inn in Greenock, Scotland. Posing as a lawyer, told them they faced decades in jail for breaching confidentiality laws. The threat was part of an elaborate story concocted by Cotton, in which she used a fake identity to romance Margaret's 33-year-old son, Michael. Then she pretended to be the fictional woman's siblings, parents, nurse, and lawyers to defraud him and his family. When police searched Cotton's home, they found 15 laptops and 2 tablets that she used to convince the McDonoughs that they were communicating with more than a dozen people. Her scam had netted her nearly £5,000 and a large number of gifts. That's the trouble in the social media age. People can make false accounts, and it's very difficult to be so careful. West Lothian was on Thursday remanded in custody at Paisley Sheriff Court after obtaining money by fraud and threatening Margaret and Nicola McDonough before their deaths. She will be sentenced next month. As I say, we're going to look at what happened to her in a moment. Cotton's scam began in May 2012 when she used her stepsister's daughter's name and photos to create a fake profile under the name Stephanie Wilson on a dating website. Michael McDonough contacted her. So this is Michael being Margaret. So he contacted her on this dating site, not knowing that she was a completely mad person. Speaking regularly until he believed he had begun a love affair with the woman he knew as Steph. He was duped into buying her an engagement ring worth nearly £2,000. He had never met her. He'd never even met her, and he bought her an engagement ring. But every time he tried to arrange a meeting with Steph, she made up excuses to delay it, including that she'd been jailed for breach of the peace sister's boyfriend. Posing as Steph's mother, she then told Michael that the boyfriend had attacked Steph, leaving her with bleeding on the brain. Steph's only hope, she claimed, was a stem cell treatment being trialled by a company called Biotech Scotland. She further claimed that Michael would not be able to visit Steph in hospital because of a confidentiality agreement with the company. Cotton then had tried to kill Steph by poisoning her, and that Biotech would be paid £100 million if all the patients in the trial died. She said the government was involved and that the press had been banned from reporting the case. So, I mean, this is just, you just think, what? Michael was led to believe that Biotech were trying to kill Steph. He was told they were killing people off, Fraser Gibson, prosecuting, told the court. Lindsay Cotton told him the scandal was so big the government were trying to cover. He was keeping Steph alive with his support, and Biotech were preventing him from seeing her in an attempt to kill her. Cotton began to she began to involve herself in this fantasy, and that she actually met Michael now, but she said she was like a mother figure to this Steph, this imaginary woman, while all at the same time using her alter ego to coerce him doing what she wanted. He was tricked into giving her nearly £5,000, a BlackBerry, an iPhone, and even at one point moving in with her. And at that time, she started telling her friends that they were engaged. So that's the story so far. Just let me come back to you and make sure you're okay. Exactly. Where do these people get all that from? I just don't know. Yeah, funky, the tickets and things. That's a whole different story. That case needs investigating. Otherwise, I would quite love to investigate it. And then you've got to get maybe Mark Williams Thomas. Maybe he should look into that. Maybe I should contact him and tell him or ask him. So far, it's just Lindsay Cotton and the brother, really. Michael's mother and sister became involved after Cotton claimed that their testimonies would be needed to bolster a case to the European Court of Human Rights that could help to save Steph. So what she's doing is she's pretending to Michael she's a good friend of this Steph, that he's sent money to have this stem cell treatment, but he's never met. She's sort of now ingratiated in the same time she's telling other people she's engaged to him. Crazy. Anyway, so what she did was got them to do these testimonies that were supposed to help their case in the Steph's case in the European Court of Human Rights, and then she turned on them and she claimed they had breached the confidentiality of Steph's case. They were to blame, and they both faced 20 years in prison. So she's now posing as a lawyer, and she started sending the messages saying they might have to flee the country. She demanded £5,000 to make the case go away, and another £500 to arrange a fake passport for Nicola. And on the 7th of May 2013, she went to Margaret's home in Paisley to discuss it. So she's terrified these two women. Now, what happens next depends what you believe. This is the official version of what happened. I don't know if this wasn't an MURDR as well, but you tell me what you think. 3 days after she went to their house, you know, threatening them really that they might have to flee the country, they might have to face prison, etc., Margaret and Nicola were found dying at a Premier Inn. Margaret died soon after, and Nicola died from her injuries 3 days later. Their deaths are being treated as self-deletion. Cotton's fantasy began to unravel a week later, on the 22nd of May, when police investigating the deaths came to visit her home. They seized the phones and laptops she used to dupe the McDonoughs, and she eventually admitted the scam. I think she might have done more than that as well. She claimed to have committed the crimes because she wanted a relationship with Michael. Her lawyer, Jerry Band, told the court his client felt remorse and shame for the upset and anguish her deplorable family. So, These two women, the mother and daughter, apparently had some sort of suicide pact and stabbed each other. So they were both found with multiple stab wounds, and both died of presumably of a loss of blood, I would imagine. And the inquest found that it was a double self-deletion pact. Now I've got to come back and see what your... This is Scotland, DMV. This is Paisley. You know what where does an inquest find this as a double self-deletion? Again, this is something else to me. It needs investigating. How can it be? How can it be? You know? And then her daughter supposedly had a self-deletion pact and stabbed each other. So when the inquest came, it was just, this is quite a long time ago. It was in 2013, I think, or somewhere around this. Yeah, look into it, DMV. Now, I want to show you, briefly, oh God, what do I show you next? So many things I want to show you. So what I want to show you next is what happened to that awful woman who did this to them. Yeah. So this is the woman, Lindsay Cotton. But talk about karma. This is how she does. She is she helped to kill the Scottish suicide at a hotel. Lindsay Cotton weighed 18 stone and she died 6 months into a 3-year prison sentence. It resulted in she died 6 months into 3-year prison for the to take their own lives if they did. I don't think they did. It's like I just don't know where they get these verdicts from. Honestly, since all this with the Nicola Bully case, I would have said from my own experience with the coroner, which was good, you know, from when my ex-partner deleted himself, that, you know, solicitors so caring, so respectful. I was not a high regard for coroners, and now it's just gone. Oh, and apparently Mr. James Aidley, who said he won't talk about the case anymore because he never talks about cases after they're finished and, you know, ethical reasons, he's doing another TV series. You know, he did the TV series, The Cause of Death. He's doing the one. I have no terrible woman. So a fraudster who drove a Scottish mother and daughter suicide died because she was overweight and had blood clots on her lungs. She died in prison after being convicted of contriving a cruel blackmail plot against tragic Margaret and Nicola. Pair, aged 52 and 23. Come on. You're talking about a 52-year-old woman, a 23-year-old woman killed themselves, even though I think that young girl, she had children which were grandchildren for the older woman. They just did that. I don't believe it. I honestly don't believe it. Anyway, killed themselves after Cotton convinced them they would be killed or jailed for life on breaking a non-existent confidence to a person she'd made up. She was only 33 when she died. Cotton, 33, who weighed 18 stone, was found unwell in her cell at Her Majesty. I can't even bring to myself to talk about KC as Majesty. Prison, Edinburgh, in March 2016. She was taken to Edinburgh Royal Infirmary where she passed away. And following a fatal accident inquiry at Edinburgh Sheriff Court, that she died from a pulmonary embolism, blood clots in the lungs. Well, there you go, karma. Karma catches up with you in the end. So there you go. Deep vein thrombosis and obesity were also listed as factors in her death. She had repeatedly complained of breathlessness while in prison, but doctors had difficulty diagnosing what was wrong with her. And Sheriff Sterling ruled that the pulmonary embolism, and there were no reasonable precautions which could have been taken by prison or medical staff to prevent the death. It says, although, 33 is young, isn't it, to have all those issues? Although Miss Cotton was a young woman, she had a number of significant health issues. She suffered from obesity, type 2 diabetes, gout, menorrhagia, hypothyroidism, asthma, chronic pain and anxiety. So that is quite a lot at the age of 33. She had during pregnancy, and that, so there's another child without a mother, though maybe that's not a mother you would want to have, I don't know. She frequently suffered from breathlessness in the weeks before she died. Because of her multiple health issues, diagnosis was difficult. So this is the young girl, this is the 23-year-old girl, her and her mother. You know, I'm not being funny, but I could not, even if they begged me to, I don't think I could stab my child or my mother. And my mother did my head in sometimes, bless her. Bless her. But she did. How could you stab them over and over again? I don't believe this. This stinks. Stinks. Anyway, when Miss Cotton was seen at the Royal Infirmary of Edinburgh on the 19th of March 2016, she had just suffered 2 tonic-clonic seizures. It was reasonable for the doctor to investigate her for a possible infection in the central nervous system. She was able to be investigated at hospital and had perked up by 9:30 p.m. and her heart rate had reduced. She died as a result of a massive, large embolism which occurred suddenly and without warning. Even if that diagnosis had been considered when she collapsed in the early hours, clot-busting drugs could not have been administered to Mrs. Cotton. This is the mother. So these are the two. Are you telling me this girl and her mother stabbed each other to death? Nah. Administering these drugs would have carried a very significant risk of causing major hemorrhage, given that she had recently undergone a colposcopy and she had suffered from bleeding to such a degree that she was anemic and had required a blood transfusion. There was no delay in the blue light ambulance arriving. I bet there was a big deal. You know, you sometimes wonder when these people die in prison, you do wonder. Or in transferring her to the Royal Infirmary. The inquiry heard evidence that a prison officer went to Cotton's cell on March 19, 2016 and saw her lying in the corner of her bed, struggling to breathe. She was rushed to hospital by ambulance but died in the early hours of the following morning. Cotton had told her nurse shortly before her death she had recently lost a stone and planned on losing more weight in an attempt to reverse her type 2 diabetes. But to be 33 to have type 2, you know, it is something that people tend to get later in life, but it's very, very young. Anyway, and then it just goes into the story of everything. Okay, let's just make sure you're all okay. Yeah, exactly. No way. Could you imagine? Doesn't come naturally. So that's your beloved daughter or your beloved mother in front of you, and you think that you could do that, you know? So, oh, is it the 1st of November, the new series, Jackie? So, yeah, Mr. Aidley says he can't discuss cases, not unless he's paid a bloody fucking fortune for it. Pay him a fucking fortune for it and put him on the telly, then he'll discuss it. Disgusting. Anyway. So, something else I just wanted to show you. Because my subscriber sent me this, my member sent me this, which is quite poignant, I think. Hang on. And this is where the memory of Margaret and Nicola McDonough, aged 52 and 23, beloved mother and daughter who passed away on the 10th and 13th of May 2013. So they, you know, they died of blood loss, I suppose. They must have died of blood loss. They died on separate days in the end. Yeah. I guess the scene that initially was thought to be, it was thought to be an MURDER, and then here comes the coroner. Oh, no, that's, you know, self-deletion. Well, who knows, but bless him and rest in peace, Margaret and Nicola. Nicola. There you go. So many coincidences, isn't there? Anyway, so I just thought